Hello everybody, my name is Natalia Leigh and I am the author of the young adult novels Highborn and Way of Spears, and today I'm doing a really exciting video. I went through all the books on my bookshelf and I pulled out my favorite creative writing books. So some of these are more like memoir, some of these are kind of visuals, more like visual artistic creative writing books. Some of them have character exercises and are more like craft based. So I have about like 8 books I think that I'm going to show you today, and let's go ahead and just dive right in. Alright, the first book I want to show you today is called Still Writing, and it's by Dani Shapiro. So Still Writing is part memoir, part look into the creative process. So Still Writing is a book that I like to kind of keep on my bedside table, and after a long day of either being successful at being creative and writing and editing, or after a particularly difficult day, when I'm not feeling like much of a creator or a creative-minded individual, I like to sit down and read this before bed because Dani Shapiro's outlook on creators in general and kind of living a creative lifestyle I find to be extremely not only down to earth but inspiring as well. So this is not a book that I would sit down and just devour in one sitting. This is a book that I have enjoyed taking my time with, slowly reading through. It does have some advice on craft, but I'd say this is more of a kind of look into the life of a creative-minded individual. So I absolutely love Still Writing. All right, the second creative writing book I'm showing you today is similar to the first, and that is Bird by Anne Lamott. Now this was a book that I was introduced to when I entered college. Now my first year of college, I was not even an English major, I was an equine science major, so my sophomore year of college, when I switched from equine science into an English major field, I heard about this book, Bird by Bird, and I absolutely fell in love with it. So I'd have to say that the most memorable aspect of this book and what it taught me was to see the beauty in what Anne Lamott calls shitty first drafts. So when you are a new writer, or even if you're an experienced writer and you are working on a first draft, it can be extremely frustrating. You can feel self-conscious, when you see the words on the page and they're not flowing in the way that you had hoped they would. The words and the story doesn't come to you quite as easily as you thought it was going to. I know the frustration at looking back on work that you thought was amazing and then realizing how terrible it actually is. And the fear of writing badly used to really hold me back. I would not write in order to avoid writing badly. But then by doing that, I was never learning anything. I was never growing as a writer or as a creative individual. So after reading this and learning that there is magic and beauty in a shitty first draft, that is the first step to getting anywhere, is writing that really bad first draft. This book taught me that. So if you're somebody that is struggling with confidence and you need a boost of creative confidence, I would definitely recommend Bird by Anne Lamott. Okay, now these next 3 books I'm going to lump all together because they're within the same, branding, I guess I could say, and that is the Writing and Publishing for Dummies books. So I have Writing Fiction for Dummies, which was the first Writing for Dummies book that I got. And then I have Self-Publishing for Dummies, which I have used so many times that this book is starting to get smushed and wrinkled because I have referred back to it on so many occasions. And then the third and final book that I have by this branding is Writing Young Adult Fiction for Dummies. Now all of these have been extremely helpful. Not only are these books pretty big, so you get a lot in them, but they have really good advice. So they have advice from people that are in these fields, people that have experience. Let's just jump right into writing fiction. And I will kind of read out a few of these chapters. So it has getting ready to write fiction is part 1. You know, questions, what makes a good story? What are some basics when it comes to telling a story? How do you find your audience? How do you write a great novel? How do you manage your time? There's an entire chapter on building your story world, on creating compelling characters. So you can see that there is just like so much really good, amazing information. How to analyze characters, scrutinize your story structure, how to edit your scenes. There are 2 chapters on editing here, so for structure and for content. And then you can go on to getting published, and that's when I would jump into the self-publishing for dummies. Now this one is awesome. It covers budgeting, copywriting, marketing, so many really, really valuable points and advice, not only in this book, but in all of these writing for dummies books. I would highly recommend these if you are looking for more of like a how-to manual with a lot of good advice and tips and tricks when it comes to actually crafting a book versus the kind of more personal stories and the confidence building side of writing. I would highly recommend these. I absolutely love them. Okay, this next book is one of my favorites, and I believe I have talked about it before on my channel, and that is WONDERBOOK, the illustrated guide to creating imaginative fiction by Jeff Vandermeer. And this book is gorgeous. It has a very like fantastical steampunk kind of vibe to it, which I really enjoy. And you can absolutely use this book for whatever genre you might be writing. You know, you don't have to be writing steampunk or fantasy. You can be writing a horror, a thriller, a contemporary, a romance, whatever it is that you're writing, this book can really come in handy. And I want to say that one of my favorite things about this book is that it has so many visuals. I am a very visual learner. It's difficult for me to just like open a craft book and just read blocks of text. I like visuals, I like illustrations, I like things to be broken up so that there's a lot of variety and it's exciting to continue looking at it and reading it. And this book definitely has that. The way that this book works is it gives you fun, illustrated examples of craft and advice. For something that's a little bit out of the box and out of the ordinary, I'd say pick up the WONDERBOOK. I absolutely love it, and I have to say it's probably one of my very favorite creative writing books. Okay, next up, going along the same lines of like color and illustration and bright, happy, fun pages is Juicy Pen's Thirsty Paper by Sark. And I mentioned this on Instagram when I read it. Down at the bottom it says, gifting the world with your words and stories and creating the time and energy to actually do it. So this is a really fun book because she actually hand writes everything and colors everything, and then they like scan the pages and turn it into a book. So you'll see that she actually hand writes all of this and she illustrates it. So there are so many colors when you're flipping through here. Like, look at how much fun this is. See, and it also has exercises for you, so it'll ask you questions and help you set goals for yourself. What are some titles that describe you? And it's just so bright and colorful and cheery, and I absolutely adore this book. And you can absolutely sit down and read through this in an hour or two. I actually did that, I want to say a month ago. I just sat down one night with a cup of tea and I cuddled up in bed and I read this whole book just because it's such a feel-good kind of that boost of creative freedom and creative confidence type book. And that's what I really enjoy about it. But also, if you want to take your time, you can, fill out all of the exercises that are included in this book. Like right here it says, fast list of reasons you don't feel like writing. And what I wrote years ago when I got this book was, I could do something else instead. My writing isn't good enough, which is something I talked about with Bird by Anne Lamott. I wouldn't write because I thought it wouldn't be good. And then I don't know what to say next. So this is a book that I've had for many years. I remember picking it up at Barnes & Noble when I was there with my dad. I was like scanning through the writing books and I saw this on the shelf. It's hard to see in this light. And it was so colorful on the shelf. I just knew that this was a book that I wanted to pick up. So again, if you are more of a visual person, like, look at how beautiful that is. I absolutely love this book. If you like visuals, if you're looking for something that has a little bit of, advice and craft, but is also based and rooted very deeply in boosting your creative confidence and helping you, achieve creative freedom and releasing that creator that's inside of you, I highly recommend picking up this book. You will not be disappointed by it. Okay, the 8th and final book I'm going to show you today is The Emotion Thesaurus, a writer's guide to character expressions. And it's funny because my sister and her fiance gave this book to me for Christmas 2016, so 2 Christmases ago. And their dog, got into the package and kind of chewed on it before I was able to get a hold of it. So you can see, look at all those like tooth marks all over this book. It's like scratched up everywhere. You can see that. But The Emotion Thesaurus is awesome. And this is one of those like manual craft type books that is really helpful when you're actually in the midst of drafting. So many of these other books might be helpful when you're between projects or when you need more confidence to launch into a new writing project. This is one that I use and that you can use while you're actually working on something. So The Emotion Thesaurus, let's go through it. It has a whole list of emotions that your characters can feel, and then it goes through the definition of them, the physical signs, the internal sensations that somebody might experience when feeling these things. And it's really helpful if you're someone that has not felt these emotions yourself, but you're trying to truthfully and realistically write a character that is experiencing these emotions. All right, so one of them in here is guilt. And personally, and unfortunately, I'm somebody that has experienced a lot of this in my life, but if you are not somebody that personally feels guilty about a lot of things, you don't guilt yourself all the time like some of us do, then you might not be extremely experienced with how guilt affects you and how it makes you interact with the world around you. Physical signs: averting or lowering your gaze, shifting about, blushing, reacting defensively, keeping at a distance, talking too much or too fast. So those are the physical signals that your character could be exhibiting if they're feeling guilt. Some of the internal sensations: upset stomach, tight chest, pain in the back of the throat. This is all from guilt. Mental responses: cues of acute or long-term guilt. So this is something that really comes in handy when you are in the middle of drafting and you need, a quick reference to, okay, my character is feeling really depressed. I don't have a lot of experience with these feelings. How do I write this character in a realistic and believable way? So then you turn to the page here that covers, the feelings of depression. You'd read about it, you'd be able to do your research and then write that character with more believability. It would feel like that character is actually experiencing the true feelings of depression rather than a surface level because you don't truly understand it. So again, The Emotion Thesaurus is one that I would absolutely recommend to those of you that are in the midst of writing your first draft, or maybe you're about to go back through and do a second draft and you want to bring your characters to life. This would be a great one for you to pick up. Okay, everybody, those are my 8 favorite creative writing books at this point. I know that I will pick up more here and there, and then I'm sure that I will share, round 2, part 2 of my favorite creative writing books at a later day when I add more of those to my shelf. I truly hope that you enjoyed this video. Again, I do have to say that my favorites, like if I had to pick just a few out of the 8 I showed you today, I would say WONDERBOOK is absolutely one of my favorites. Probably Juicy Pen's Thirsty Paper, and then also one of the writing fiction or writing young adult fiction for dummies. Those would probably be my very favorites because I like a mixture of, memoir style that gives you more creative confidence mixed in with something that is like tried and true facts and tips and tricks when it actually comes to the craft of writing a novel and being a creative individual. So please let me know down below if you have tried out any of these books, and let me know which one is your favorite. And if your favorite is not on this list, again, please let me know in the comments below so that I can check it out and hopefully add it to my bookshelf. Thank you guys so much for watching today, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!